Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. So a little late getting this video made this morning because I was waiting to see this big speech from the leader of Hezbollah, if he had anything that was really worth listening to. And well, like a lot of times when these leaders, Putin has done it a couple of times, right? You can remember those times that, oh, it's a declaration of war. We're going to drop nukes and then it ends up being a big nothing burger. That's so far, that's what it looks like with this speech. I was listening to at least a little bit of it in the news reporting. I mean, he's called it a holy war, but it's been called a holy war on our side. Wasn't it Lindsey Graham or someone like that said that it was pretty much a holy war? So it doesn't look like that we're going to see a declaration of war from Hezbollah against Israel. But is that really necessary? I mean, Hezbollah has been striking northern Israel for a long time, so I don't really think that matters. But there has been another declaration of war against Israel. Algeria, their parliament voted with a 100% passage of a resolution authorizing the prime minister or president of Algeria to declare war and to wage war on Israel. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, at least right now, I mean, there's no troops being sent, there's nothing of that nature, but from reading this, it's authorizing the president there to wage war on Israel, basically at his discretion. So as things progress, if they feel that it's necessary, Algeria has, by a technicality, already declared war on Israel also. Things are heating up. We know this, we hear about it. The other day I was reporting, and some of you got it and some of you kind of laughed about it. I reported that the Marines in the Central Command area, which is the Middle East, have canceled the birthday ball, which is a huge deal. And, that's because of what? Who knows? Maybe because they didn't want all these Marines in one place. Well, they're not all in one place altogether. At each different base, they would be congregating. I mean, I guess that's possible that they didn't want them all congregating together on one base, but who knows? There's been multiple attacks, 40 different attacks against military bases in the Middle East just in the last couple of weeks. But I spoke to a friend of mine who is a retired Marine. He was a sergeant major, and this guy who's in for like 30 years, and he kind of knows the Marines, right? This was a high-ranking NCO, senior NCO. He said that they have never canceled the birthday ball, and that this is a very big deal for them to do that. So that's coming from an E9. That spent a lot of time in the Marines. I mean, he still bleeds Marine blood. There's other things. The United States Army has issued orders to 800 NCOs, ordering them to report to Fort Campbell, Kentucky within 6 days to go through recruiter training. So they're trying to get the recruitments up. It's very possible if we get into a bigger, broader, wide-scale war that I think that a draft could come up. I don't see it any other way. The recruitment is down horribly. That's why they're sending all these sergeants through recruitment training to try to get the recruitment up. But if people just don't want to do it, if this generation just doesn't want to do it, then what's the other means? Well, there's a draft. There's been this kind of softening, I guess, psychological softening of the idea of a draft recently in the last 6 to 12 months, with articles being posted on the military websites and stuff of that a draft isn't too bad, or it may be necessary to if we go into a big war. So that's a very likely possibility. And then another thing, and I have been watching this, I was waiting because I know he's kind of the expert on YouTube, Monkey Works. Most of you know who that is. He does all the, it'll be a big map with all the planes and everything. Well, I don't have that technology. I do have a flight app, and so you can see planes flying and stuff. And so within my own little local tribe here, I've been reporting to some of them almost on a nightly basis for the last week, the really big uptick in military aircraft over the United States. A lot. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean war, but it is strange. When you pull up a map, especially in the evenings, I've noticed in the evenings it's really picked up. There's transport planes flying all over the United States. There's refueling planes. There were probably dozens just the other night over the United States, refueling planes. Why? Possibly refueling fighter aircraft that don't show up on the transponders typically. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily because they're trying to really fight over here. It's training, I would assume. A lot of reconnaissance planes up. I noticed the other night I was looking at military aircraft, and I can't remember now, but it was probably 24 U.S. Air Force, the little small Learjets that they would transport, senior officers, things like that around in. They were all over the place moving. There's just been a lot of activity. There's been a lot of reported activity of transport of military equipment across the United States. Is that anything? Who knows? I do think that all of this is indicated, and then obviously the fact that we've sent 2 carrier groups and countless other ships over to the Middle East within a short amount of time, plus planes and troops and everything else. It's becoming pretty obvious that we are gearing up as a nation, as a military force, to wage war. And it looks like they're planning on it being a pretty doggone big war, because I don't remember this big of an overnight buildup, whether it be in the Middle East or just here in the United States, during the previous 2 wars we were in, Afghanistan or Iraq. I don't recall. I mean, I was around both of those times. I don't recall such a rapid buildup. I mean, I know after 9/11 there was massive recruitment and things like that, but that was pretty obvious. There was this massive terrorist attack or government attack, whatever, you know what I mean, on our soil. So that would seem pretty obvious. But I think that when I say we, our government and our military is gearing up pretty fast. I think that they know stuff that we don't. And whether it's they know things are going to get worse or they don't care, they want in at all costs, the latter's probably more of the reality of it. The talk against Iran, the passage of the House resolution, was it 559, which is, I talked about it yesterday. The U.S. House is saying that we will stop at nothing. Like there's no limits to what we would do to stop Iran from acquiring a nuke. And the funny thing is most of the reporting, most of the intelligence that I have seen out there states that Iran probably already has a nuke. They probably already have it. There's been reports going back to the 90s, like to the mid-late 90s. There were reports then that Iran was only just a few weeks away of building a nuclear weapon. And here we are 30 years later. So either it's all a big fake, show and none of it's real, or Iran is really, really slow and incapable, or they've had one for a while and we're just, we'll act like they don't know and they'll act like we don't know. And that which is probably the more likely scenario based on how the whole fake geopolitics thing goes. So I think that there's a pretty strong chance of a war, folks. And when you take a full account of everything, that should be a little unsettling. Another thing, I received an email from someone, and this is on a slightly different thing, but probably more important to us than what's going on in the Middle East. Someone sent me an email with some pictures that they took in Arkansas. Now, before I get started with the story, I want to preface this. There has been reports or rumors. That's probably the more likely thing. There's been rumors, and I have a hard time at times of verifying these as solid, but rumors that the Biden administration has considered releasing illegals into national parks, national forest areas. They did that up in Central Park in New York, but that's a little bit more obvious. It's surrounded by urban area. Out in the real vast, remote national forests, or just, like where I'm at, there's not a whole lot around. Would they do that? It doesn't make sense. What I could see a possibility of them taking national forest land and saying that we're going to make these, immigration detention center kind of things, and then just bulldoze it and turn it into some type of compound. There's a lot of rumors flying, and some of these rumors are from locals here. There's a gentleman that I know close around here, and he's in one of the local government offices, and he told me that they had heard that was a possibility, that illegals could start showing up at national forests and stuff to try to survive, because there's no place else for them to live. My gut is not 100% leaning into that. But then this morning I received this email from someone down in Arkansas that had snapped some pictures of a big tour bus, an unmarked tour bus. I'll show it to you right here. An unmarked tour bus that had gotten stuck in one of the forests down in Arkansas. Now, Arkansas has a lot of similar national forests that we do here. And some people went out to help them. They snapped a picture of it, and they weren't Americans. They didn't speak English, anything like that. And the pictures aren't really clear, but you can kind of tell that the bus it's like on one of those turns they're similar out here. These little narrow roads, and you go on a tight turn. Well, it's a big tour bus, and it got stuck. He said that the local news where they're at reported it as a church group on a bus that got stuck out in the forest. And they said if it was, it didn't make any sense, because they didn't speak English. They all looked like they were migrants, and couldn't understand why they were on one of these big white buses, which those white buses in that picture is very similar to it's identical to what many of you have seen, where they're transporting these illegals all over the country. So are they doing that? It doesn't make sense. I mean, are they just going to dump them off and say, here's a Walmart Ozark Trail tent, sleeping bag, and have a good life? I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, then those of us that live out near that kind of stuff better get really prepared. I mean, like locked, loaded, solid. Tribe got their plans and everything, because you stick them out like that, and of course they're probably going to resort to criminal activity. I mean, I can't wrap my head around that. But there's been a lot of other things that you can't wrap your head around, but they happen nonetheless. Just wanted to mention all that because, again, this illegal stuff is going to be a problem. It is a problem. It's going to get worse and worse, and here we are going into a big war. And I suspect it's going to be a massive distraction to what's going on the border. And people aren't going to pay attention, and there'll probably be more and more and more. Last month, what was it, 270,000 crossed the border? We go into a full-scale war, we could see well over 300,000 a month crossing the border. And no one would even pay any attention to it. So a lot of things going on, and we need to get serious and get ready. Take the time that you need this weekend to kind of go over things, whatever your plans are. Figure out what the holes, the kinks in your chain, and do your best to fill them. Because it's getting to that point. I think most of all is work on your relationships. Work on your relationships in your family. Work on your relationships with God. Work on your relationships with His Son, Yeshua, Jesus. Pray for that guidance, that Holy Spirit to guide you, and just really get ready, because it's starting to look that kind of crazy. Folks, you know what you're supposed to be doing. Getting your houses in order, preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. and I'll catch you in the next video.